Hello and welcome to Analyze That. So, we pick up in episode 2 of King's Court. Now, this was one hell of a messy episode, okay? It was just a mess. We basically pick up where we left off in the previous episode at the end of the Elimination dinner. Remember that? Yeah. And one of the hosts, Miss Pete, is like, we're here to help you find compatibility and love. So you guys need to spend more quality time with the ladies, and this is how we're gonna do it. Basically, we all know what this translates to in TV language. They're going to move into some sort of mansion together, and they're going to put everyone in the same space and have them be all up in each other's faces, which always makes for great TV. But yeah, right away, Tyson Beckford grabs his girls, Raquel and Ileana, and they go off into the sunset, or should I say the mansion. It is a nice house, it's your typical box mansion, new build, sleek furniture and appliances, very modern, the usual. Very modern, the usual. Not my style personally, but hey, it works for these types of shows, I guess. But one thing that really gets me, it's a quick sidebar here. One thing that gets me about this particular setup in these shows is that they always have these grown-ass women in small single beds. Like they're in some dorm situation, and I just don't understand that. Like they couldn't spring for something bigger? I guess not. So, but we'll just leave that for now. Maybe the budget will be bigger for the next show or the next season, I don't know. Either way, everyone's moving in and giving their 2 cents about the whole situation and everything that just went down, and Raquel says something interesting in her confessionals, which I think you will want to see.
No, it's never been me. I've never been the problem. I mean, I haven't. I really haven't. I'm just being honest. If a guy comes back to you, that lets you know you haven't been the problem.
This is such flawed logic to me. I just can't. Like, what I think she doesn't realize is that just because a man or a partner comes back to you doesn't always mean a good thing. Sometimes they're circling the block to see if you're still the same. They want to see if your boundaries are still weak, if you're still stupid, if you're still willing to take their BS, and sometimes they're just coming back to feed their own ego. I personally never circle the block. That's just something I live by. When I'm done with someone, I am done, and I make it clear. Even if the relationship ends amicably, it's done and dusted, because I don't ever want to look back and repeat old patterns, and I think that going back to the same person would definitely increase the probability of that happening. And again, I didn't see a lot of people talking about this, so I just thought I'd mention it. So anyway, in the next scene, we see our girl Janae. She is getting so comfy. She puts on some sweats. She immediately makes a beeline for her man girl. She scoots right next to Carlos, and they're all up in the couch, all loved up and nice and cozy. She's not even giving the man a chance or giving any of the ladies an opening to talk with her, because in her mind, I think she's like, this is her man, her man, her man. And like she said in the previous episode, it's Carlos or nothing. So she's pretty much made her choice at this point, and she's not interested in entertaining anyone else. And she clearly doesn't want Carlos to be entertaining anyone else either. And this is what I mentioned in the previous episode of like, these ladies pretty much locked into their main guy very early on, and they didn't give themselves an opportunity to get to know any of the other guys. They just put all their eggs into like this one guy that they initially connected with. And I think it's going to come back and bite them in the ass later, but we'll see. Now, while these two are all booed up and cozy in the couch, Lexi is across the room staring daggers at them like this bitch. You can tell she's so bothered, but she doesn't know how to like maneuver the situation, I think. Like, because she clearly wants a one-on-one with Carlos, right? And in her confessional, she actually complains that he's always hanging out with Janae, but she's not really doing anything about it. I feel like she's not being as proactive as she could be as someone who says that she wants to get to know Carlos better, because Janae is going for what she wants. She's making it known. She's making an effort. Lexi, on the other hand, she's kind of standing on the sidelines, waiting for Carlos to come to her, which I think will never happen, because in the off chance that Janae lets him off her sight, he'll most likely be approached by another woman, and he'll have Janae in his mind because she is completely saturating this man with her presence. And I feel like if Lexi wanted quality time with Carlos, then she should have done what Janae did and just sort of slide onto the couch next to him as well. Janae wouldn't have been able to do anything about that because, this is the show, this is a process, that's what's supposed to happen. So she would have had to give them space to talk. Instead, Lexi is standing in the corner, brooding, cooking up resentment in herself, and I just hate that for her. It definitely was not a good look, and I really felt for her in this moment. So the next morning, as you can see, Thaddeus decides to wake the ladies up, to wake the whole house up really, by banging on pots and pans, which is insane to me. Because, like, these are grown-ass women, and this is not some kids' summer camp where you can just dictate everyone's rising time. Like, we're all grown-ups here. But again, it's the childishness in Thaddeus coming out, which, yes, sometimes it can express itself as playfulness, but at other times it's just so annoying because he just cannot read the room to save his life. Anyway, so he in the confessionals, wait, not in the confessional actually, now that I remember well, he complains to Dr. Shawana that she is giving him a side hug. Because, like, he greets her, like, after waking her up with the pots and pans, he basically goes in to greet her with a hug, and she just sort of gives him a little side hug. And she's like, well, you called me aggressive, so I'm trying to scale it back. And I'm like, yes, queen. And we really start to see, like, this tension forming between them because of this word that he used, which is, this should let you know how important it is to pick the words that you use with people because you never know how it's going to affect them or how it's going to affect your interaction moving forward. He clearly didn't use precision of language, and he wasn't self-aware in the moment that he said it, and he had no idea that it affected her like this. But hey, here we are. But that's what I said in the, previous episode, that, like, it just showed a complete lack of self-awareness on Thaddeus's part, But Dr. Shawana, for her, like, she tries to correct him. She's like, it's assertive, not aggressive. And I 100% agree with her. And at this point, she's trying to show him that she doesn't like him using this word, but she's being nice about it because I think she realizes that he's not self-aware enough to realize the impact that he's having. But yeah, they have their first little argument about this, but end up hugging it out anyway. Now, the thing about these shows is they always have to introduce an element of surprise. So you already know that they're going to introduce new women at some point down the line because this is a Will Packer production after all. And already Tyson Beckford is licking his lips, getting ready to attack his next prey. Like, you can tell this man has completely forgotten about Raquel and Liliana at this point because the shiny new toys are here, the shiny new women are here. And one of these new women that stand out is Steph. She immediately decides to go for Tyson, and it's like, I wish she knew what she was getting into because she's so young and pretty. I think she actually would have gone really great with Thaddeus because she's confident, she's outgoing, she's competitive, she's all the things that he likes. But no, she goes for that player Tyson who will never take her seriously because he's not ready to take anyone seriously. Least of all these women, because I don't think he even takes himself seriously, to be honest, when I just look back on like some of his scenes. But we're not going to dwell on that whole interaction and their whole connection right away because I want to go through all the new girls that were introduced to in this episode so we can like keep track of this growing cast of characters that we have here. So another addition to the cast is Ariel. Now, she says she's been engaged, I think, 3 times. So clearly she's a hopeless romantic, right? So I'm like putting her in the corner. I'm like, oh, she might actually be good for either Thaddeus or Carlos. But we'll see who she matches with. And then comes a woman named Felicia. She also goes for Tyson, and apparently she's dated a bunch of celebrity men in the past, so that should be interesting. I'm like, should be interesting. And then we have another woman called Sarah, or the Persian princess, as Tyson calls her, and she becomes yet another addition to the Tyson Beckford harem. Surprise, surprise. And then comes Brianna. Now, I love Brianna, even though she doesn't do well in the, that introductory basketball challenge that they use to introduce the ladies. She's still pretty confident and sophisticated and fierce. And I'm like, I really like her for Carlos, actually. Either that or Thaddeus. But anyways, once all the new women are introduced, the OGs, the original cast of women, are brought out so that the new mixer can start, this time with everyone in the same place. And of course, Tyson gets into trouble immediately. The man is such a careless flirt, and he is so brazen that his first 2 connections, Liliana and Raquel, pull him to the side and they're like, have you forgotten about us? And of course, he immediately becomes defensive and paints himself as a victim while villainizing them, calling them jealous and crazy, and pretty much acts as though they're being unreasonable for expecting some modicum of respect from him or even some attention, because he's basically paying them dust at this point. This is episode 2 and already Tyson is paying dust to his original connections. I mean, the disrespect is crazy because he's acting like they don't even exist. He's not even making the time to pull them to the side and reassure them and let them know that, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. Like, you're still my top connections. I just need to mingle and get to know these other women as well. He doesn't do that. Instead of reassuring them, he just acts childish. Again, he gets defensive and he's just not seeing their perspective at all. And it's at this point where I'm like, I just don't even have time for this man at all. Like, he is getting on my nerves. And while I'm processing all of that, Dr. Shawana walks over to Thaddeus, who at this point is chatting with one of the new women named Ariel. Now, as much as I like Ariel's vibe because she's outgoing and assertive, like very similar to Dr. Shawana, I just don't enjoy seeing women degrade each other in any way, shape, or form. And she did just that when she called Dr. Shawana desperate during the scene. And Dr. Shawana was so taken aback by this. She didn't even have a clap back ready because she was like, how is this girl coming for my neck when she doesn't even know me? And I'm really glad she kept her composure because that would have escalated the situation unnecessarily. So that was pretty cool on her part. But still, it was so uncalled for Ariel to come at her like that, and it was so unnecessary. And I don't know if this was manufactured by production because Ariel in her confessionals seems really sweet, and there was literally no reason for her to react the way she did to Dr. Shawana and call her desperate, unless of course she's nursing some type of insecurity in herself, which could be possible. So anyway, I wish these ladies would stick to what they're here for, which is the guys, and just be courteous towards one another, because this type of behavior just doesn't speak highly of your character as a person. But then again, it is par for the course with women that have internalized misogyny, unfortunately, and it's one of the reasons why male-centered women are just so exhausting, because on the surface they can seem nice, but then they'll turn around and talk breezy about you, and they're like in this weird competition with you that you don't even know about. And this is why like they're constantly being labeled as dangerous, because they have no self-awareness that they're doing this either. So, but I won't go into that. Like, that was just a quick sidebar of something that I noticed. And again, no one's talking about this. No one that I've seen on like TikTok or YouTube or whatever when reviewing the show. No one's like pointing out how like this weird sort of internalized misogyny, pick-me behavior just keeps popping up in these shows. So back to the episode. At this point, Carlos is out here. He's playing the game, and we see him chatting with one of the new women. Her name is Kat, and they have this rapport. They're chopping it up, getting to know one another. And again, Carlos is trying to put an effort into knowing some of the other ladies, someone other than Janae. But of course, as soon as he's done, with his obligatory mingling session with Kat, we see him making a beeline for Janae, because as I've said before, these two seem to have chosen each other at this point, and I think it's so sweet, but it's still early days, and this is a Will Packer production, so anything can happen. So Carlos finds Janae, and they start chatting, and while they're doing that, the camera pans over to Lexi, and again, she's like in the background watching the whole thing go down, and you can tell she is super bothered. Like, sis is heated, because she can tell that Carlos is just playing out the clock at this point, because he's clearly made his choice. And seeing the state she's in, some of the girls, they advised Lexi to get to know some of the other guys. They're like, try and get to know Tyson and Thaddeus. Go out, put yourself out there, because it's clear that Carlos has made his choice. Everyone in the house at this point knows that Carlos and Janae go together. So why don't you just go out and find another connection for yourself? And I think this would have been good for Lexi, because like I said in the previous episode, the writing was on the wall from episode 1, from that first date. But yeah, at the back of her mind, I think you can tell she still has her sights set on him, even though it's clear that their connection is not going anywhere, and everyone can see it, because Carlos is out here asking Janae on a second date. Because, oh, by the way, in this part of the show, the guys are supposed to take 3 girls out on a date after this particular mixer. So he's getting his roster ready, and Lexi is not even a factor. Like, she's not even in his mind at this point, you can tell. Carlos also asks our tall girly Brianna on a date, which I thought was nice. And then Tyson, he asks Sarah, the Persian princess, to be his second date, I think. And it's interesting to note that none of the women that he asked were his original connections, Briquel and Liliana. Like I said, he is paying them dust at this point. He was like, you know, he just doesn't care. The disrespect is through the roof. And while I'm processing that part, we find Lexi complaining to Thaddeus about Carlos. She's like, Carlos is isolating himself. He's not playing fair. Everyone can see he's isolating himself, blah, blah, blah. And Thaddeus immediately shuts it down. He lets her know that he's not about to entertain it. If she has a problem with Carlos, then she needs to talk to Carlos and basically, you know, chop it up with him. And I agree with Thaddeus. I feel like Lexi is one of those people who, instead of addressing their beef with you directly, they'll go around gossiping about you to other people and paint you as the villain when they haven't even addressed the issue with you first. So it's obviously never a good idea. And Thaddeus basically tells her off and continues talking to his Dr. Shawana. And, you know, Lexi, I think she finally takes the hint, because she then makes her way to Carlos. And she lets him know how she feels. And to his credit, Carlos is honest with her about the fact that his best connection is with Janae. He lets it be known. And yet Lexi still begs him to spend more time with her. And this was so cringe for me to watch, because what do you mean you're begging this man for his attention? Sometimes you just have to admit when you've lost and exit gracefully. And I think this would have been the best time for her to do just that, because she tried, right? But no, she doesn't exit. So Carlos decides to give her another chance, because he turns around and he's like, okay, what would you like to know about me? He gives her the same opportunity that he gave to Janae on their first date. And he is interested in getting to know her. He's like, why can't you tell me about yourself as well? And he's basically throwing her a bone at this point, because I think he also doesn't want to come across as unfair. And he genuinely wants to give her a chance to try and see if there's anything else that they could have in common, other than the fact that they're both parents, of course. But of course, you know, Lexi fumbles the moment. There isn't much to say here, except that this is the definition of self-sabotage right here. Anyway, moving on to Tyson. Seeing that Tyson has started the process of casting her aside, Liliana decides to check out Thaddeus. And she actually manages to snag a date with him, you know, because he's pretty open-minded. This is what, by the way, this is what Lexi should have done from the get-go. She should have started putting feelers out there. But on the other hand, I do feel like Liliana is basically going tit for tat with Tyson at this point. She's stooping to his level with this move, because she's attempting to play the same game that he's playing. She's like, oh, you're gonna pay me dust, I'll pay you dust, and I'll go out with your friend. How about that? But the difference between them is that Tyson is actually enjoying himself, because he doesn't care about anyone but himself and his enjoyment. So he actually enjoys playing games with these women. Liliana, on the other hand, is obviously only going on a date with Thaddeus to try and make Tyson jealous, which is ridiculous, because at this point, everyone in the house knows that she's into Tyson, so she just comes off as completely transparent, desperate, and disingenuous. And it's just so cringe to watch. Just look. In the next scene, we see Janae and Carlos, they're all loved up again. He went and found her, and Lexi still sulking in the corner. What else is new? And Tyson, of course, is holding court with all his ladies, going on about how, oh, you're all so beautiful. Like, yeah, dude, of course they're beautiful. This is a dating show, and these women have brought their A game. Not only are they top tier to begin with, but they brought their A game, as they should. But he's like a kid in a candy store, and it's just so annoying to watch. And the worst part is that he's doing all of this in front of Briquel, whom he hasn't paid any attention to during this mixer. Like, he's just brazenly playing in her face at this point. He's asking other women out on dates, and she's like sitting right there. Like, she's sitting right there next to him, and he's asking all these other women on a date, and he's filling his roster for the next day's date, and he just doesn't pay attention to her at all. I mean, just Unbelievable. And then after that, he says something to the effect of, I like to keep my women on their toes. I like to keep them guessing and thinking like, ooh, what is this man gonna do next? This man is crazy. I'm sorry, I just did Dr. Gregory's voice from Married to Medicine. I don't know why. It's like, for me, that's like the narcissistic man's default voice. Like every time I have to do that voice, I just do Dr. G's voice. If you know, you know. So anyway, this man is crazy. Like he's awful, right? He's a walking red flag at this point, and he's insufferable. So out of all the ladies, he chooses out of all the ladies, only Kat, Lexi, and Bukel were left without a date for, the next day, like out of the mixer. Now, before I move on to the dates, so we can talk about how they went, I just want to highlight this scene right here because the following day, Dr. Shawana finally confronts Thaddeus about his use of the word aggressive towards her. And she lets him know that this is a microaggression that triggers her. And of course, he apologizes. And just like I predicted, he just wasn't self-aware enough to realize the effect he was having on her. So he apologizes and, I thought it was a sweet moment overall. And of course, this comes right before the new queens arrive and move into the actual villa. And so it was really interesting to watch because you see the OGs are like, they're not happy with the situation. They're like not happy with this new development. Meanwhile, you have Tyson. He's in his element. He's in the pool. He's showing off his body to the ladies. He's running around in his hoochie daddy shorts talking about how he would hop in his pool naked every morning. Like, who asked you? Go be with Liliana and Bukel. Go reassure them. Like, why are you treating them like this? Anyway, this show is crazy because while all of this is happening, this happens. Now, the aftermath of this moment cannot be overstated. Dr. Shawana rightfully points out that Lexi should address her concerns with Carlos instead of going around telling everyone else the story. And this is now the second person telling her this at this point. But she still doesn't listen. She still acts like the aggrieved party in the situation when she's the one who went behind Carlos's back to dig up dirt on him instead of either looking for a new connection or just eliminating herself, It could have all been so easy, to be honest. Instead, it's just giving bitter and hateful, and I just hate that for her. So anyway, in the next scene, the guys then go on their dates. Thaddeus does speedboating, Carlos takes his girls pickleballing, and Tyson, I think he goes dart throwing. So we'll start with Tyson. At this point, he's just as annoying as ever because he continues this pattern of trauma dumping on the new women, but this time it's on his new target, Sarah. He's basically complaining about his past and his ex, and as always, he paints himself as the victim, which again is such a huge red flag. So instead of getting to know this new woman, he's busy going on about his past, attempting to weaponize her empathy for his benefit, which is going to be a running and ongoing pattern, as you'll see in the show. And interestingly, Sarah then asks him if he's loyal because he goes on this tangent about how he doesn't like jealousy. And he says that women flirt with him all the time, he gets flirted with all the time, so, he has to be with a really secure woman who's going to understand that. But then he neglects to mention that he himself actively flirts with people in front of his girlfriends. Instead, he decides to take the victim role or mentality of, oh, they're just jealous and I didn't like that because I'm not a jealous person. Again, he is villainizing Liliana and Bukel at this point. He is not speaking kindly about them, despite swearing up and down that he has a connection with them. And that should be such a huge red flag for Sarah. And I'm not sure if she was clocking it at this point, but she does later. But we'll go into that later. For now, let's move on to Thaddeus and his date and how it went. Of course, he took Ariel, if you'll remember, and Liliana. And I forgot the third person he took. But let me say, I'm surprised that he didn't faint because it looked like he was having a heat stroke out there. He was just sweating buckets. Again, we see a man connecting here with a single mom and being impressed by her strength and refinement. And you could tell throughout this date that he's he's really connecting with her. Him and Ariel had a really seemingly strong connection. and they connected over the fact that they both love kids. And I think Ariel has a special needs son. So, that was a great point of connection with Thaddeus, because I think he runs a non-profit organization that supports schools that, have like special needs kids. So while this is going on, Liliana is like, oh yeah, the third person that Thaddeus took on his date was Dr. Shawana. So Liliana and Dr. Shawana are sitting basically waiting for, Thaddeus to finish his one-on-one time, and you can tell Liliana's mind is just not there. Like, her mind, she's probably wondering what Tyson is doing on his date, because that's the only reason she's on this date with Thaddeus. It is to make Tyson jealous. She's not really even into it, and it's so transparent. She's not even making an effort to pretend like she wants to connect with Thaddeus. It's just so, like I said, she's very transparent. So anyway, after the dates, we come to the elimination round again. The guys are talking about their dates, and Tyson is like, I'm going fresh batch every time. If a fresh dinner is being cooked, why eat what I had yesterday? I'm like, just how he refers to women is so derogatory and childish and just gross. Like, I'm sure Liliana and Brukel have no idea that this man is busy calling them last night's dinner, like behind their back. And he's, of course, referring to the new girls as the fresh batch, like their products or something like that. And it's really disgusting and disturbing and disconcerting to watch. And again, it just shows how emotionally stunted and narcissistic this man is. He has no business looking for love and being on a dating show. Instead, he should be in therapy, working on himself, instead of using women for emotional labor and God knows what else. By the way, I was also disappointed by Pete, Miss Pete here, Robin Pete, I think is her name, the host, because she was basically siding with Tyson instead of calling him out. She basically was like, after Tyson made this statement of, I'm going fresh batch anytime, she doesn't call him out on that, even though she's a woman. She's not like, because if I were there, I feel like she should have been like, hey, don't objectify women like that, that's disrespectful. But she doesn't say anything. Instead, she's like, I didn't like the jealousy coming off of the OGs. And basically, she's referring to Brukel's reaction at the basketball mixer when the new girls were coming in. And I don't know if Miss Pete realizes this, but she's basically co-signing this man's deplorable behavior, and it just doesn't look good. It's not a good look. She's coming off as the type of male-centered woman who would take a man's side even when he's clearly being manipulative, which Tyson clearly is. And what irks me about this whole scene is how they all laugh at his bad behavior, like he's not literally playing with people's emotions. Like, they can clearly see that this man has a problem. He's not being sincere. He's playing these women. He's not taking it seriously. And they still play it off instead of holding him accountable. And it was just really sad to see. So anyway, let's go back to Carlos and Lexi, because the talk then shifts to them two. And Carlos gets this look on his face that sends my spidey senses going off, because I feel like there's something right below the surface with this man that we're not seeing yet. Because when they brought up Lexi and what she did, I don't know, there just something just almost came up. We almost saw it. As nice and kind and self-aware as he comes off most of the time, it's giving dark empath vibes sometimes, or maybe something else, I don't know. But I feel like he's hiding something. Again, I could be wrong and only time will tell, but I've got my eye on him. So Carlos basically ends off by saying that Lexi, she's got to get involved and be more proactive if she wants to stay in the show, which I feel, I get it, granted, but at the same time, be honest about the fact that you're not interested in her. Don't be disingenuous and act like if Lexi now, becomes more engaged, you're going to be interested in her, because you're not. You've made your decision at this point. Like, what are you talking about? You've made your choice. But again, to his credit, Carlos has been honest with Lexi about that. So I don't know why he doesn't mention that in the elimination meeting as well. He doesn't mention that he's actually tried connecting with Lexi, but he just has a stronger connection with Janae, and he has tried telling Lexi this, but it goes one ear and out the other. Back at the house, Janae pulls Carlos to the side and asks him about the stuff that Lexi has been saying about him. And Carlos pretty much immediately owns up to it. He admits that yes, he used to be a cheater. He basically got married really young and he couldn't handle getting all this attention from women. And, that led to him cheating on his first wife. And again, to his credit, he takes full responsibility for his actions and he says he's a different man now and he's learned from his mistakes. And to that I say, it looks great. And I hope so, because in her confessional about this scene, Janae mentioned having some trauma around being cheated on. So it would really suck for Carlos to betray her when she's committed herself so fully and put all her eggs in his basket, And again, this whole time, Lexi is like watching them like a hawk from the background. She's expecting drama, like you can tell. She's expecting something to pop off based on this information that she gave them. And I'm like, girl, stop. Let go while you still have some dignity left. Let this whole thing go. You came, you put yourself out there, you lost. It's fine. Dust yourself off, use the platform you just got, and keep it pushing. Because it doesn't help to be skulking around this man and the woman he's clearly chosen to try and set some shit off. Enough said. Onto the elimination mixer. We already knew who was at the bottom. First up, it's Lexi. As you can see, she's still in her feelings about not being chosen, and her whole expose on Carlos is blowing up in her face, basically. Meanwhile, Kat is going on about how she's romantically interested in Tyson and she's flattering him, and I'm just rolling my eyes because she has no idea what this man is capable of and she is playing straight into his hands. And of course, Tyson is lapping this up because we all know how much he loves having his ego stroked. So he's smiling and he's milking this moment for all he's got. And he's really enjoying being the center of attention. And you know what? At this point, Raquel has had it because she's watching this and she's like, oh, I'm done. Like, she's done being a part of Tyson's circus or harem or whatever he has going on. She basically asks Tyson point blank, why is she here? Why is she being threatened with elimination again when they allegedly have a connection? And he's like, I don't like a jealous woman. Mind you, they're having this conversation in front of his new love interest, Kat. And you can tell that he's basically using Kat as leverage to make Raquel jealous. But he clearly has the wrong one because Raquel, she clocks the bullshit immediately. She gets up and she leaves. When I tell you, I was so hyped when I saw this scene. When she did this, I was like, yes, queen! Now that is queen behavior. This is how you exit with your dignity intact. This is what Lexi should have done. Raquel is smart and she clearly has self-esteem, and she was not about to let this man play in her face after he clearly gaslit her. She was not having it, and I love that for her. Soon after this moment, Lexi also takes Raquel's cue and she eliminates herself as well. Meanwhile, this dummy, Liliana, puts her pygmy hat on and she's like, oh, I think they're just trying to save their image from being eliminated. So they're going to just get up and quit. Like, ho, if I was you, I would be doing the same thing. You cannot change a man. You cannot change Tyson. He's going to continue playing in your face. And if you stick around while he disrespects you, it's just not a good look. It just shows a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-respect that is so deep, I feel sorry for her. Because self-love and self-respect looks like what Raquel is doing. And if you were smart, you would do it too, because Tyson is about to play you for the fool you are. He is going to show you flames, because if you don't respect yourself, then why should he? If anything, Tyson probably has more respect for Raquel because at the end of the day, she chose herself and her dignity, and that's a boss move. Smart girls. And that's the end of this episode, basically. Again, super dramatic, very entertaining, and I can't wait for the next one. Thank you so much for joining me and watching till the end. Please make sure to like and subscribe and let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. I know it's been out for a while, so everyone has had a chance to kind of collect their thoughts around it. So I'd love to hear what your view of this is, of these couples is, and what your thoughts are when it comes to Carlos and Tyson, as well as the women. Like, are you also getting dark empath vibes from Carlos? Like, Is there something there? Is it just me? And what about Thaddeus? I mean, I like that he knows what he wants, and he clearly has a type, but what are your thoughts on him overall? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next one.